Hi, I'm Kurt Hansen, the founder and CEO of Innovative Timing Systems and the author of the Jaguar software. As our company has grown over the last 15 years, we have a big engineering team here now that's responsible for a lot of our product. But I'm still very involved in the development of this software, and that's why I like doing the demos. You're going to hear directly from the guy who invented most of this technology. Let's get started. On screen, you see the main Jaguar software. This is what you're going to see on your laptop when you're timing an event. And it's really not very difficult to operate, although there's a lot going on here, isn't there, on screen. Let's take a look at the top left. In this window, you're going to see the names of participants in whatever category or division they're in as they cross whatever timing point. Maybe it's a split, maybe it's the start, or perhaps in this case it's the finish. And so you're going to see their finish time displayed here. That's all that's doing, essentially. If you wanted to see the database that's currently loaded in memory, you could click on this little button right here, and it'll toggle to what looks like an Excel spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet, but we make it look that way because it's easy for people to use. They can understand that particular format. All right, let's go back. Here again, we're going to see the people coming in as they cross the finish line. To the right, we have their bib history. So you'll see, here's bib 1. You'll notice it's 1 here. There's 45, and there's 45 as well. It's interesting, a lot of people have copied our format because it works quite well. And a lot of effort went into making sure that these bib numbers are easy to see, the font is large, and we even chose the color for a very specific reason. You'll notice here that when you're timing an event, you don't want to have to look over maybe at this screen and try to reconcile, well, what bib number was that? It's kind of hard to see, isn't it? So you're just going to look to the right in the bib history window, and it's going to tell you, okay, that's the bib number. Now, what else do we have going on this screen? Right below the bib number display here, we also have what's called Fast Lookup. Fast Lookup allows me to quickly access the record for anybody who maybe is out on the course or finished the race. And this is very popular. I'll give you an example. Somebody might walk up to you and say, my daughter finished the race maybe, 20 minutes ago, we think, but we can't seem to find her. Could you look her up and tell us what's going on? Sure. So I can type in her name or her bib number. In this case, I've got some preloaded data. I'm going to type in bib 1 and hit enter just so you can see what it would look like. So what's going to pop up is the information on that individual, what race they're in. It's also going to show their times. So if they had split times, we would see that. Notice it's also showing me the photos that were taken at that particular point, in this case, the finish line. We're going to come back to the whole photo thing in just a few minutes, and you'll see how that operates. This is a really nice and very quick screen to use to look up people who've been in the event. Below that, there's some diagnostic information that you won't care about today, but down the road you may want to look at that because it gives you some indication of how your system's performing. Below that, there's a black window that has some helpful messages in it. This is what we call our log window. As a race is going along, if we see something that we think you need to know about, we'll put a message there. And Jaguar is really intelligent. It uses an AI-based system in the background. It's literally watching how you're using the software. It's looking at data coming in from chip reads. It's looking at all kinds of conditions. And if it sees something that it thinks might get you into trouble, it'll give you a reminder and then a warning. Perfect example, I've intentionally not saved my data to the disk because I want you to see this. So it says, reminder, don't forget to periodically save your database to the drive. Now, Jaguar has automatic backups built in, but I have all that turned off because I wanted you to see what might happen. Then I got a warning shortly later, literally within probably 20-30 seconds, because I had not gone and done the save. In other words, Jaguar said, hey, you need to save your database. I didn't do that, so it issued a warning to me and said, you might want to go ahead and do that. So these helpful messages will save your bacon, as we say on race day. So if something's going wrong and you're not aware of it, we're going to tell you. We have over 1,400 different scenarios that are built into the software, so it's constantly looking at all kinds of things and trying to figure out if we can help you. It's a really neat feature, I think, of our product. Okay, so over to the right, what do we have going on? Well, we have some icons, and these icons are what drives the system. This is how you decide what you want to do next. You can see green, which means those icons are available. In other words, you can click on those. If they're blue, it means they're disabled right now. And if you see red, it means that's actually going. That's actually running right now. Okay, we'll see red here in just a second. To the right of that, you're going to see some really cool little traffic lights here that are telling you what's going on as you're using the system. So it's going to constantly monitor the memory. Why is it doing that on your laptop? Why is it keeping track of that? Well, because there's so much going on behind the scenes, Jaguar will let you know if maybe you should add more memory to your laptop because you're timing, for example, big races. If you're doing a marathon with 15 or 20,000 people, you may not have enough memory, and will turn yellow here to let you know you're probably going to want to upgrade your laptop down the road. Internet connectivity is really important. You don't have to be on the internet to run our software, by the way, but if you are, you can do live updates to our registration results platform, and more about that later. It's also going to monitor some other things that are going on. And I think one of the nice things here is one or more age groups are ready. So when we're getting ready to produce results, what do we always do? Well, we produce an age group report, right? And it would be nice to know, without having to constantly run the report, do we have any ready yet? So this will turn yellow when there's one or more age groups ready. And if all of your age groups are ready for you to do reporting, it'll turn green here. Below that, we have a nice little bar graph that's showing us how many people have started in the 5K and how many people have finished. And if we had other races going on, it would show me that as well. Finally, some diagnostic information down here. How much of the CPU is being used on the laptop? You can see right here, this is live software. It's an i7 desktop computer, and we're not using much CPU power to run Jaguar. You'll see that go up a little bit, but not very much as we start to use the system. Finally, to the right, you'll see these little boxes here, and it says photo uploads. Jaguar has built in an amazing photo capture system. It's fully integrated with the software and with our registration results platform, which, by the way, is called itsyourrace.com. So if you go literally type itsyourrace.com, you'll see our registration platform. We're a huge registration platform, results platform, photo delivery platform, social media integration. We have free apps that the athletes can download that provide GPS tracking, tell them how they did in their race, and they can even see their photos in the app. So as we're processing photos, you'll see them scrolling up the screen as we're sending them up to our results platform. So that's why that's there. All right, so that's a quick overview of the screen. Now, let's talk about how we might use Jaguar to actually time a race. How do we get the data into it? How do we set our age groups? How do we produce results? Those are the things you're probably curious about. So let's start off with our race info. Over here, we have what are called our divisions or categories. You're probably familiar with this. So we have 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. Those are the four I happen to have set up in my demo here. I can have up to 200 different divisions and categories going simultaneously. So if you have a really complex race, let's say you're doing a mountain bike event and there's different distances, maybe there's an enduro, there's a downhill, there's single track, whatever, you might have 10 or 15 divisions or categories that you're tracking at the same time, up to 200 in our product. Now, you also have some other information over here. So, for example, let's take a look at division lap count. Let's say you're doing an enduro race for mountain bike, and there's a limit of 6 laps, right? You can't do a 7th lap, and if they do, we don't want it to count. So you can set limits on how many laps they can complete. This is handy for velodromes. It's handy for track events where maybe they're going to run the 800, and you're going to track them using lap counts, but you don't want them to get an extra lap, so to speak. All right, so there's a number of things we can set up here, but the crux of it is we're going to have 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. Very easy to set that up. And by the way, once you set it up, you can just save that, and you can use that as a template going forward. You don't have to redefine it every time. Now, let's do the next thing, which is set up our age groups, right? So we have our divisions or our categories. Next thing we want to do is we want to define who's qualifying for awards. So you can see here we have a description, and then we can put whatever age range we want in. I have it set up for 18 to 25. In reality, I might set this to something like, 12 to 16, 17 to perhaps 19, and then maybe 20. I'd have multiple levels here, but this is just demo stuff. And so you can see the age ranges right here, fairly straightforward for males and females. And then down below, you would expect this. We have masters, we have grandmasters, and we have senior masters. And we can define how many of those will be taken out of the individual age group and given an award, right? Because we don't want them to double dip. All right, so we set up our age groups. We set up our divisions or our categories. Some people will call it categories, some call it divisions. What's the next thing we want to do? Well, we need to get the data into Jaguar. We need to load participant data. So there's multiple ways to do that. The easiest way to do that is to use our online race registration and results platform. Again, itsyourrace.com. Now, why would you use that? Well, a number of reasons. One, it's tightly integrated. It has all kinds of social media stuff, and we don't charge you to use it. Basically, it's paid for as part of the registration, and in fact, you make a commission. So the timers who are using our product all over the world, they will make anywhere from $1 to even $5 on each registration, and it's a good profit center for them. And so if you are a timer or you're looking to become a timer, it's great revenue for you. And again, the race doesn't pay for it. It's part of the registration fee, and that's pretty normal in our industry. So to bring the data down from It's Your Race, you would simply connect. Now, I'm not going to do that today because there's over 10,000 races on the platform that I have access to, so it'll take about 2 minutes to fill this drop-down. So I'll just skip that for now. But suffice to say, you would click on Connect. Maybe you have 50 or 100 races. They'll come up very quickly within seconds. You'll say, get the participants for any race you select, and it will automatically load those into the Jaguar database. Now, I said earlier there's a database. Well, let's go take a look at it. I'm going to go up to Database. I'm going to select View Primary Database. And when I do that, you're going to see a screen. Again, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. It's actually a very high-speed relational database running in the system, but we make it look like a spreadsheet. And the reason for that is we don't want you to have to learn some proprietary format. So we make it look just like Excel. And in fact, it is just like Excel. You can see you can set marks here where you can scroll the windows. You can add additional columns. You'll see I have it set up for gun, chip start, some splits, finish, chip, or gun elapsed and chip elapsed, age, division. Well, there's a lot of other columns we could insert. So for example, I could say, oh, you know what? I'm going to have, let me see if I can hover the mouse. I'm going to add split 5 today, right? Because we're going to have 5 splits. Maybe it's a triathlon. Great, so I can do that. There's other things that I can insert in here, and you can see some of them. If I wanted to put in maybe an adjustment column, because we're going to assign penalties during the triathlon. So USA Triathlon is going to have an official there. At the end of the triathlon, they're going to give us the penalties. We're going to assess those. Or maybe they're doing it during the race as well. And so I could have an adjustment column where they're getting penalties assigned to them. So what's really nice about the database screen is it's easy to work with. It looks just like an Excel file. And I think one of the more important things is when we save this database out, or you save it out, we're going to save it as a comma-delimited file. It's not a proprietary format like others use. It's not a SQL database. It's not some encrypted btrieve database. It is a comma-delimited file. And that means you can take the data that we have saved, all this data, and you can load it into Excel, or you can write your own software if you want to, and you can work with it. Finally, the last thing I would tell you about this is you can actually edit the database while the race is going. So if somebody walks up to you and says, hey, my age is wrong, that's fine. You can come over here and you can scroll over and you can say, well, that's fine, I'll change it right now. Or, hey, I didn't do the 10K race, I dropped down to the 5K, that's fine, I'll change it right now. When you make that change, all of our systems, our kiosks, our announcer screens, everything is automatically updated, including our It's Your Race registration platform. So if they have our free app with GPS tracking and they're looking at that, they can see the update. They've been re-scored in the correct race that they ran in, and all their photos are made available to them instantly. So this is a really nice feature. All right, so that's the database screen. Now, what if I'm not using It's Your Race? Maybe the race is using Active or they're using somebody else, and I still need to get the data into Jaguar. Well, that's easy to do. We have an import tool that allows you to define the fields that are coming in from a CSV file, or it could be a tab delimited file. It's totally up to you. Usually it's a CSV, comma delimited file. So you can come in here and you can say, hey, the incoming fields or the columns I have are located here, and I want them mapped over to the Jaguar database. We give you examples of this in our manual and when we ship you our software. You'll see examples of this, and you can build what we call a template, and you can save that. That means in the future, you can just load that template back up, and you'll be able to import data from anywhere, okay? So let's recap. What have we done so far? Well, we've set up our age groups. We've set up our categories or divisions. We've loaded data into the database, so we think, okay, we're ready to go. So let's pretend it's race morning. I've set the system up. I'm ready to start timing the event. But here's kind of an interesting problem. The race director walks up and says, hey, I decided to go ahead and do on-site registration the morning of the event. Is that okay? Well, absolutely, it's okay. Two things I'll point out to you. Number one, with our online registration platform, It's Your Race, you can literally leave it open as long as you want. You could start the race and say, I'm still accepting registrations. People could walk up to our kiosk. They could sign up for the event. You could do race day bib assignment right there. In fact, you can do it on your cell phone. We have check-in app on your phone that's totally free. You can assign them the bib, and they can start the race 5 minutes late if you choose to. So you can actually leave registration open as long as you want. Okay, really nice feature, especially because you'll make more money, or the race will make more money by doing last-minute registrations. But what if you're out of cell phone range, or you don't have internet access, right? You're not on the internet. Well, that's okay too, because we've thought of that. We have what's called rapid registration built into the system. And this is a manual entry process where you can say, all right, I've got somebody who wants to sign up for the race. And in fact, it's Kurt Hansen. That's me. So I'm going to sign up for the race. My age, I'm going to lie, and I'm going to say I'm 50 years old. I'm a little older than that, but that's all right. You don't need to know. And I'm going to do the 5K today because I'm not in great a shape as I used to be. So I'm going to say save that. When I do that, it's going to come up and say, okay, the next bib that's available that hasn't been assigned is 102. So Sally Upton shows up, and she says, I want to run the race today. Great, Sally. How old are you? 43? Terrific. You're doing the 5K? Okay, great. We're going to go ahead then and save your registration. Boom, you're in the system. So you can literally do registration here without being connected to the internet. Here's what's really nice. When you get connected, let's say you're out in the mountains and you drive back and you find a Starbucks or a Cracker Barrel or a Panera Bread or whatever you find, we'll automatically take those registrations and move them up to It's Your Race so that the participant can look up their results using our free app, right? So that's really cool. So it's a disconnected registration process that then connects to our online registration when you're back and you have internet access. All right. So we've got our data in the system. What's the next thing we want to do? Let's start the race, right? We're ready to go. So how do we start a race? Say a 5K, for example. Well, there's a button here called Set Start Times. I'm going to click on that. You're going to see a window open up with an amazing amount of capabilities here. The first thing we're going to do is going to keep it really simple. So we want to start our 5K. You'll see the time of day is being shown right there. All I have to do is click on Capture Gun Time. Boom. Now, what's really cool is I can set up a sound file, and you can configure Jaguar to use any sound you want. So a siren, a gunshot. We don't use gunshots much anymore, but a siren will go off over the speakers when you click on that button. So a lot of people will take the laptop, they'll run a cable over to the PA system, they'll click on Capture Time, it'll capture the time, it'll start the siren, the runners take off, and we've captured the start time to 1,000th of a second. So all we have to do for our 5K, it's really pretty simple. We just come down here and say, update the database with that gun start time. And it'll say, you're about to set the gun start to this time. Yep, that's right. For all the bibs that are in the 5K. Are you sure you want to do this? Now, normally I would say yes, but here, since I have sample data loaded for this presentation, I'm going to say no. All right, so there are other things I could do when I start a race. There's all kinds of clever things you could do. Let's say we had a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon going today, and we're going to start our 5K early. We're going to start it at 7 a.m. I don't know why, but we are. So what I could do is I could capture the time, click on gun start times by division or for a division, and then come down here and select the 5K. And this time, when I say update the database, it's going to let me know, okay, you're just starting the 5K. Is that right? Well, actually, I want to start the 10K this time, not the 5K. So I select that, and it says, okay, you're going to start the 10K. So you've got some really cool ways you can start your race. And you can deal with all kinds of scenarios that come up in the real world. So, for example, let's say you're doing a chip start timed race, chip start, and you miss a couple of chips, which is absolutely going to happen with anybody's timing system, including ours. We're really good, but you're always going to miss a couple. You can say, find any missing chip starts and fill in the gun start time for them. Or I can say, only do that if they have a finish time. So you have a lot of options here for dealing with real-world problems. Let's take it one step further. Let's say you're starting a triathlon where they start one at a time. The Louisville Triathlon, Ironman did this. I don't know if they still do it, but they would start you one at a time off of a dock and you would jump in the water. They would start you every few seconds. So what you could do if you had our product is you could say, I want to start a new swimmer every 10 seconds. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to put up this beautiful little screen here that's going to tell them, okay, here's the countdown for the next person. Let's customize that a little bit, though. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to say, I think it would be cool if we had a sound, and I think it would be nice if we showed the countdown text to kind of get them ready. So here you go. So it's going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I've got a little beep sound there to let them know. But you could have, again, a gunshot, a siren, whatever you wanted. I think a siren would get a little obnoxious after a while, wouldn't it? But the point here is you can set it to whatever you want. So we have these countdown windows, and there's multiple. There's a 60-second, and then there's one you can define. All right, now I'm really going to wow you. Let's say that you were doing a time trial. Maybe it's a velodrome, it's a cycling event, it's a point-to-point, whatever it is. You could even do, let's say, NFL combines for the high school, the college, or, in fact, the NFL. And our system's been used to do that before. So I'm going to bring up what's called the time trial screen. This takes you even deeper. Let me set that up for you so you can see it better. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to use lasers because I want thousandth of a second precision. I'm going to set one up at the goal line, one at the 20-yard line, one at the 30, and one at the 40. And I'm going to measure their speed in each of those segments, right? That's combine. We do that. We do it to a thousandth of a second. We have lasers that you can use for that. This is how sophisticated you can get when starting something. It can be as simple as just capture the time, assign it to the race, I'm done. Okay? Or it could be very powerful. Now, the race has started, right? We fired off the gun and people are running. So what's the next thing we're going to do? Well, we want to collect the chip reads. Now, I don't have runners coming through my office, obviously, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on a feature called demo mode. When I clicked on that, it turned red to let me know, okay, you're in a simulation. Jaguar has this amazing simulation built in where you can truly, and I mean this really, so seriously, you can simulate the entire event. You can say I have a marathon, and I want to set it so that it simulates the density of runners when they're crossing the finish line, and I want to practice using the system. There's all kinds of commands behind the scenes that you can use to configure this. I've got it set up for a very simple little 5K, but watch what's going to happen. Now I can I can start collecting chip reads. I couldn't do that before because I wasn't actually connected to the hardware, the antennas, the reader, all that stuff. But now that I'm in demo mode, it's going to do a simulation. So let's collect chip reads. It's going to remind me I'm in demo mode. Now watch what's happening here. As we're collecting these chip reads that are coming in, it's going to scroll on screen just like you see. Names are going to be shown. That's kind of neat, right? It's going to update any of the data over here. Notice the CPU is still under 10%, and we're doing quite a bit with the system right now. In fact, I have about 7 windows open that you can't see as part of this demo. And so you'll notice this is live data, so it's not too bad in terms of the load. We're getting some warnings down here. Now, why are we getting warnings? Well, it says your snapshot window is open, but you've not clicked on Start Taking Photos. So let me bring that over while the system's running. So as I said before, we have a complete photo management system built in to Jaguar, and this is a patented technology. We have the ability to take a Logitech, C920 camera, plug it into the USB port on the laptop. This is live, by the way. It happens to be in my office, and it's aimed at my wall. And what I can do is I can say, I want you to take photos and associate those to the runners as they're coming through the split point or the finish line, and I can decide how many photos I want to take. Why is that important? If you've been a runner or you've done any kind of events like I have, sometimes the picture they take at you at Ironman isn't your best photo, right? They only can take so many. Well, with our system, you can say, you know what? We really want to deliver a great experience to the athlete. So we're going to take 8 photos as they approach the finish line. So we'll start taking photos 60 feet out, and we'll take them right up to the point of the finish line. Those photos are then automatically processed, sent up to It's Your Race, and the athletes buy those, or there's a buyout option for the race to say, we want to give the photos away for free. All right, so really cool. It's going to be able to start taking photos automatically. I just turned that on, and you can see it says now, I'm capturing photos. All right, so as that's capturing, and I'll go ahead and turn it off because you get the idea. I can do other things in here. So let's say I don't know how to aim my camera very well. Well, there's a framing guide. And what we'll do is we'll turn on the camera and we'll show you, well, your trussing should be about here, or if you're not using trussing, you're using our ground antenna called the FGA. The FGA will be right here across the finish line. And then we'll give you some tips about maybe where to put a clock, things like that. If you want to see an example of how that might be set up, here's an actual example from a race. This camera's aimed perfectly. I see the finish, I see the clock, I see the runners, I have a nice clear picture of them. That's going to be a great photo when it goes up to hit your race. Now, not only can we do all this, but we have a photo finish mode. So if you're using the software, and maybe you're doing a 100-yard dash at the elementary school, you can take high-speed photos. It's about 30 frames per second, and you can take those photos of the kids as they're crossing the finish line, and then you can go look at them in the photo finish viewer. There's even a photo manager built in behind the scenes, and you can use this for another great feature. So you're timing a race. Let's say it's a marathon, and somebody comes up to you and says, my time is not right. I finished faster than this. You guys must be off. Well, guess what? We can go back and look at every single raw photo that was taken. Every second we'll take 3 of these. These are verification photos. And you can say, I want to see the photo from this particular time of day, and you'll be able to see the athlete. This has been a lifesaver. We've done a lot of races over the years. Our company, through all of our 650 franchise offices, does about 18,000 events a year. And it's not uncommon for somebody to come and say, I don't think my time's right. We're never wrong, by the way. I've never seen it be wrong. But people will say, my time's not fast enough. So we'll literally go to the time of day and we'll show them their photo and we'll say, nope, we've got it right. So there's this photo manager that lets you do all kinds of cool things in here working with the snapshot photo system. All right. So that's photos. Pretty cool feature built in. By the way, the camera and the extension cable so that you can set it up properly, we sell it for $100. We do not make money on it. We do it as a service, and we want you to take photos at your events. All right, so what are we doing? We're still timing the race, aren't we? Let's talk about a couple of things that almost always happen at a race. Here comes a runner, and maybe they're the winner. They're about to cross the finish line. I want to make sure that I always have times for the first 10 or 20 runners, or even maybe the first 30 or 40, because those are my age groupers oftentimes. So down here in this bib number entry box, here's a really cool feature. I can type in a bib number. I'll type 12 and hit the enter key. It'll put that in the system as a manual entry. If Jaguar got the electronic entry, it throws out the manual entry. It says, I don't need it. We got it electronically. Great. Here comes the next person. Maybe it's the second place finisher. I'll type that in. I'm doing that because if the bib or the chip were to fail for any reason, I want to make sure I can produce results, right? That's really what I'm there to do, is produce results. How I do it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure I can do it. And so we have the ability to do manual entries. Now let me slow this screen down just a little bit so that you can see something really cool. Here comes a runner and they don't have a bib on. They've forgotten to wear their bib. I've seen this happen multiple times at races. In fact, usually somebody who has a bucket list to run a 5K, they're so nervous, sometimes they just forget to wear the bib. So here they come. They're coming towards the finish line. I can't see what their bib number is because it's not on them. So down here in this bib entry box, I just hit the enter key by itself. That's all I do. It puts a 0 into the system, meaning we don't know who they are. Now, this actually happened at a race. I was at the event, young lady, probably about 20 years old. She had come across the finish line. She didn't have a bib. We hit 0. Or you don't even have to type. You just hit enter. And I told one of the staff members, run over and grab her and bring her back over here because we don't know who she is. So she comes back over, and she's pretty upset. And she said, oh, my God, I forgot to wear my bib. You're not going to have my time. And I said, no, don't worry. We got you. Watch what I'm going to do here. Down in that box, I'm going to type the word edit. I need to be able to edit my 0 entries. So when I do that, it's going to pop up on screen right here. And I'm going to say to her, what's your name? And she says, oops, sorry, what's your name? And I'm going to say, is it Chris by chance? Is it Christine Cheatham, or is it Christine Dollar? Oh, no, it's Christine Cheatham. Okay, great. So, Christine, don't worry about it. We have your time. And your bib number, just so you know, was 83. Not that it matters now, but that was your bib. I'm going to update the database. Boom. Solved. Solved. Isn't that awesome? So when somebody forgets to wear their bib, we have a process built in so that we'll still get their time. We'll quickly assign them the right bib number, and they'll show up in the results. Really makes your life a lot easier if you're timing a lot of events. All right, now let's talk about reports, right? We're timing this race. Things are coming along pretty good. And as usual, somebody will often walk up and say, hey, any idea how many people are finished or how many do we have left? Well, you could generate a report certainly and print it, but why do that? There's a feature in our utilities called Race Stats Window. And the Race Stats Window, let me bring it up so you can see it here, it's going to automatically go out every 5 seconds and it's going to scan the database and it's going to come back and tell us how many people started, how many people have finished. So we have 102 people that started. We have 51 that are in so far for this event. And so I'll leave that open on screen throughout the entire race. I'll just let it run and I'll keep track of what's going on. It's a really nice little feature. The other thing I could, of course, do is I could generate some reports. So let's do that. You'll notice our reports are very rich. We have a lot of things that we can do in reports. So typical reports might be something like missing chip start times. If there's a triathlon going on, we might want to do the swim completed report because we want to make sure everybody got out of the water, right? We could also do a half iron report, sprint distance reports. We can do missing split times reports. Let's say we have a finisher, but we don't have any split times. We want to know that because it's possible they've cheated, so there's reports for that as well. The typical reports we might run something like maybe a top 20 report. So what will happen is somebody will say to me, hey, can you tell me for the 5K, how many finishers do we have there? And I just want to look at the first 10 or 20. Now, one of the things that's really neat about Jaguar is I can print a report to the printer, have all kinds of headers, I can have logos, I can do all that kind of stuff. I can also generate a text file that Word can read or Notepad. I can print the report to a CSV file so I can read it into third-party software. I can create an HTML table that'll go on your website if that's what you want to do, a PDF document, or I can create a native Excel file so that you can then work with that data, do your own math, your own calculations, anything you desire. I'm just going to do it to the screen, so let's do that. I don't need to filter the results based on split times. And boom, there's the report. So it generates a report very quickly and says, okay, here's the top 20 finishers. Well, let's take it a bit further. This time, let's do everybody in the race so far. Overall finish report. Again, I'm not going to do any of these other options. I could, but I'm going to say done, and I'm going to say no, I don't need to filter, and boom, there's the report. Now, the one thing you may notice is it's almost instantaneous. All of our reports are really, really fast. Why is that? Well, Jaguar does something unique that we haven't seen before, at least in this industry. If you're familiar with programs like Microsoft SQL Server, or you're familiar with AutoCAD, which is a design tool. These are pieces of software that have multiple threads or multiple tasks going on in the background. We do the same thing. So when you're running our software on your i7 processor on your laptop with an Intel i7, could be an AMD as well, we are automatically using all of the cores, what are called cores. Those are like mini microprocessors built in. So the i7 has 8 cores. It looks to us like 8 processors. Most software isn't designed to use all of those cores. Ours is. So what happens is in the background, we're recomputing automatically all your results, all the rankings. We're sending that data live to our announcers, to our kiosk screens. We're sending that up to It's Your Race. So Jaguar has all of these things that are happening in the background, including, as you see here, like chip signal to noise ratio. What in the heck is that? Well, we're not just reading the chips, but we're actually analyzing the noise to say, you know what, everything's pretty clean right now, or maybe we'll turn yellow, and that's our way of telling you. You probably have somebody on telephones, cell phones, or on walkie-talkies that are standing right next to your antennas, and it's starting to interfere. We're not missing reads, but it's starting to interfere, so you might want to ask them to move on. It's virtually impossible to stop Jaguar from reading. It's way beyond this demo for me to explain it, but it's pretty tough. I've only seen this turn yellow once at a race. That's it. It's pretty rare, but we're analyzing that information to make sure you're in good shape. It's kind of a nice feature, isn't it? All right, so we're doing all this stuff in the background, as I said, and what's so cool about that is it makes all of our reports remarkably fast. Let's do a complex report. Let's do an age group report, because that's a lot more work, right? And it says, how deep do you want to go in each age group? Well, I want to go 3 deep. Do you want to use gun or chip? And you get to decide that based on where they're at. So if they're a master, grandmaster, senior, if they're Athenas or Clydesdales, you get to decide how we're going to do that. I'm going to say all gun, and I'm going to close that. And it's going to calculate that report, and it's done. So far, we have some finishers in, but not a lot yet. And it's going to do that report instantly. That's what's so special about Jaguar. Not just the functionality and the features, but the speed at which the software operates. Okay. Now, there's all kinds of redundancy built into Jaguar. If you lose connection to the reader, it'll automatically reconnect you, and it'll let you know that that process is underway. While that's happening, we're storing all the reads on the reader. So if your laptop goes down, you can grab your backup laptop, plug it right in, and we'll keep going right from where we left off. You won't miss any reads. It's a really nice feature. So redundancy is kind of a big hallmark for our company. All right, let's take a look at the file menus, and then we're almost done with Jaguar. You'll see here the typical things you would expect: input, output of data. You can edit and reassign bibs. Somebody says, hey, I wore my wife's bib and she wore mine. Is that going to be a problem? Nope. We'll just reassign you. We'll swap the data between two bib numbers. Race info, the registration, age group, divisions. We even have filter settings in here. Why would I have filters? I'll give you a great example. I have a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon going on this event today. I don't want anybody in the marathon to be red, because we're only going to start the 5K, 10K, and the half. I want the marathoners they're going to be standing around, but I don't want to read them. So I can actually use filters, and I can say I want to limit, for example, I don't want anybody in the 10K to be read or the half marathon to be read before a certain time, and I can filter that out. So there's all these filters that are designed to protect you and to make sure you don't have bad data. It's a really neat feature, and I think we're the most powerful in the world at doing this. We have all kinds of filters that'll save you on race day. All right, what else can you do? Well, there's all kinds of database options here. Things you can do like saving the database, uploading it to another system, merging databases. If you have database out at the split point and you're not connected over the internet, you may want to just do a manual merge on it, so you can do that. Reports, as you can see, all kinds of reports. And by the way, if we don't have the report you desire, well, that's not a problem, because you can create your own custom reports in Jaguar as well. So you can literally design a report with custom fields. You can do mathematics on those fields. You fully define this, and then you can save it out as a template and use it over and over again. If you want us to just instantly generate a report for you that's customized, you can say, well, build a half marathon report for me, Kurt. Great, there it is. So we filled in the columns for you. We put the distance in, and then you can customize it even more to be what you need it to be. So there's a report generator built in as well. I'm going to show you something you probably never see on another timing system, and that is database analytics. One of the things that will really mess up the results at a race is we had the gender wrong on somebody. We had their age was wrong. Or maybe they cheated. They ran too fast and were trying to give a first place prize away. I was at an event a few years ago where the gentleman was about 65 years old. He won the 5K, and he won it in 17 minutes. Well, that's impossible. That's a world record. I knew it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't possible. So we have this ability to analyze all of the data from the race, and I'm going to do that right now. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 5K. I want you to analyze it and tell me if you find any problems in the data. Say done with the settings. It's going to analyze it, and it's going to generate this report. And guess what? It found a lot of problems. And it should, because I've got the data set up to have a lot of problems. So what kind of problems did it find? Well, it found people were a little too fast based on their age. It found times that don't make sense. An hour and 34 minutes is pretty long for a 5K, so it flagged that as well. It'll even look for people who have the wrong gender. How do we know that? Well, Jaguar has built in the data that came from 5 university studies around the world where a first name in Europe or North America, if that first name is associated with a male 99.5% of the time, we know that. If that first name is associated with a female, we know that. So we'll look at the names and we'll say, we don't think, as an example, let's say Ryan Carroll or Teresa Baiza, I can't say the name right, or Tequili. We'll say, we're not sure that's a female. That name, this is a really good one as an example. Muigita is probably not a female. It's probably a male. How do we know that? It's an African name that's part of our database. So we're analyzing. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It means we want you to take a look at that because you might have a problem. And when you go to do the awards, you don't want to announce, hey, let's invite this female up. She's third place age group, and a guy walks up, right? And that's the whole idea, is to analyze the data. So we do that as well. All right, what else do we do? If you're doing series events where somebody signs up and they're going to do 8 races in your series, we have an optional module you can purchase called multi-stage. And what that does is it allows you to track for every single stage. You can have literally 25 stages here where you can say, I want to track every single race that they're in. And you'll see stage 1, stage 2, and it just keeps on going. And so I could say, bring all the data, would you, from my database in here. So I just did that. And we're going to do the first race of the season. And again, you could have up to 25 races. So if you wanted to use this for Tour de France, you had some sort of stage races you were doing, we have this great module that'll let you handle multi-stage events. Then there's some things you can do in terms of checking your antennas. You can make sure everything's working up to par. There are utilities built in that'll tell you all kinds of cool things or let you do diagnostics on any kind of thing you might think is causing a problem. If you want to do CrossFit timing, how about that idea? You say, you know what, I want to go do this CrossFit program, and I want to have 4 people who are competing against each other. You can do that, okay? So we have even the ability to do head-to-head, we call it head-to-head or CrossFit. We have that built into the software as well. And what else do we have? Well, our digital clocks. We make the world's best digital clocks, bar none. If you look at them, you'll be as shocked at how good they are. And what's really cool is you can have up to 250 of our clocks along the race course. Our clocks are used by some very big events, including Boston Marathon, Honolulu Marathon. There are other events that have used our clocks because they're very bright, they're very lightweight, and they run forever on a battery, and they're priced right. So in Jaguar, you can say, I want to have a bunch of clocks set up, and I want you to display. A good example is something like an enduro where they're doing 5 laps on a mountain bike. And they say, when the rider comes through, we want to show their last lap time. Okay. We want to show their total time. Great. And we want to show them what lap number they're on. Fine. We do all of that. If you're doing auto racing or go-kart racing, any kind of kart racing, we have an optional module for that as well. All right, so you're getting a pretty good idea of how this all works. This is Jaguar. This is the fundamental software. Now what I want to do is I want to show you 2 add-ons that come free with every purchase of Jaguar. So I'm going to drag something over on the screen here. This is our Jaguar announcer software. Now, as Jaguar is reading timing chips, just like you saw a minute ago, it's going to send that information over to the announcer system. How's it going to do that? Over Wi-Fi or a wired network. And you're going to see live results. Let me turn on the demo mode just so you can see what it looks like. You're going to see live results streaming in here on the screen. This is really neat because you can keep track of who's at splits, who's at the finish line. You have some information on them. Again, this is just sample data, but you'll get the idea. You'll have some statistics here about how many people are finished overall. And this can be really handy for somebody like a DJ who's calling out the finishers as they come across. So Natalie Stevens, great job today. She's from Clayton, Missouri. There's Mary Stevens from St. Louis. I wonder if they're related. Oh, probably, because Philip is there too. So you get the idea. You can use this as a DJ system. But let's show you something that really takes your race to the next level. We have what's called the finish clock. So here's what I can do. I can take a big television screen, I can put it up on top of the truss, or I can put it to the side of the finish line, or I might rent a 20 by 20 foot screen, or I'm at a football stadium for the NFL. The race finishes on the 50-yard line. Yep, this is a true story. And you want to show on the Jumbotron them coming in and finishing. Well, you can do that with our software. So take a look at what we're doing here. It says Bill Marino, bib number 30. There's the finish time. There's Bill Wright. Notice, great job on your race, Bill. And we have sponsors down here for the event. And so what can we do? Well, we can design any graphic we want. It can be JPEG, PNG. Those are the 2 popular formats. And you can load that up as the background image. Then you can decide what fields you want to show, what color you want them to be. You have complete control over how you lay this out and how you design it. And even better, let's say you do go to a football stadium at a college or pro, and you say, well, I need to resize that because the screen is a different size. You can do that. You can literally resize it and then say, all right, refresh the screen, and it'll automatically recenter all of these fields so that they're centered on the display. Maybe you don't want to recenter it because you want to put a logo over here as well. You can do that. So you have complete control over what's showing on the live announcer screen, and like I said, it'll support any size display you can think of. Well, what else would I want to do? How about scrolling results? Yeah, let's do that. So here's a great example. We do a lot of races with the military. In fact, we think about 75 bases around the world for the U.S. military. We're very popular with them. And you'll see here's a scrolling results display. Now, what are we showing? Now, let me get that down a little bit so it's a little cleaner on screen. There you go. So what are we showing? Well, we can sort by bib number. We can sort by name. We can sort by finish time. We have all kinds of options. You'll see here the screen has been customized, the background for the military. You can do that. You don't have to pay us anything. You can have the ability to put anything you want on the background. Then what you can decide is, well, what do I want to show? And so when you go to configure the scrolling results, you can literally say, go ahead and sort by bib number, or last name, gun time, or by division. So you can break it down that way. You can change the colors. You can change the locations of the prompts. You have complete control over this. One of the most important things is if somebody finished the race an hour ago, we don't want to keep scrolling their data because they're long gone, right? They've packed up and gone home. So we can set the timeout on how long we're going to scroll the data. What's really cool is depending on which way you're scrolling. Let's say you're scrolling by bib number. You can decide what you want to show. And then when we switch to last name, you may say, you know what, for last name, let's include the team name. And then maybe by gun time, let's change what we show there. So you have the ability to completely customize our screen. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you on announcer is something that will really shock you. Check this out. Let's say you do have sponsors, Dell, maybe Wendy's, and you want to be able to show a little commercial for them periodically to thank them for being a sponsor. Or better yet, you have athletes in your event, and you want the family members to be able to provide a message that'll be displayed on screen when they finish. So let's go back to the finish clock. See this? You rock this event. These are messages that family members can send you, and you can load them into the announcer so every finisher has a custom message. Pretty nice, but you can take it even farther. Let's open the video screen here, and you'll see what's about to happen. So we have built in the capability to show any kind of video you can imagine. This is a wildlife video, right? So I can show that when somebody crosses the finish line. I might show a commercial, and in fact, it'll come up here in just a second to do that. Notice I can also drag and drop this, and it'll auto-size to fit any video format. I support 14 different video formats, including PAL and NTSC, which is European standard and the American standard and the Asia standards. And it'll automatically put up there whatever you want. You can assign this by athlete, or you can just say, no, I want a random video to periodically show. You have complete control over what's going to be on the screen. So videos from sponsors. Oh, there's that, there's that video again of the animals. All right, so you get the idea. Announcer comes with Jaguar, and what it does is it turns your race into an amazing experience. And it gives you something that you'll never see typically with any other system in the world. Finally, the last piece of software, and then we're done, is the Jaguar remote software. Now, this is a really cool piece of software that loads on a small little $150 Windows tablet. You'll take this and you'll put it behind the finish line. And this is what we call the ultimate in redundancy. Don't forget, on Jaguar, and I'll bring it back on screen just for a second, on Jaguar, as it's collecting chip reads, so let's go ahead and start that up, I can literally type in manual entries anytime I want. So I can say, well, 65 just came across, so let's put that in the system. Great, it's now in the system. I have the ability to do manual entries. But what if I'm busy at the finish line and I'm not paying attention, or my staff member's not? Well, guess what? Over here, I have somebody 30 feet behind the finish line. They're using a little tiny tablet, and they're going to type in any missed bib numbers. So let's say they're sitting here and they go, wow, you know what? I don't see that we got bib 77. So they missed the chip read, and Kurt, you didn't do it. You didn't type it in at the finish line. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the system. It'll automatically send that manual entry back over to Jaguar at the finish line and say, if you didn't get the chip read, I want you to use this entry. And in fact, you can change the offset so that they're not penalized for the manual entry. So I can say, take 2 seconds off their time and bring it back to what it probably would have been at the finish line. It works remarkably well. We have patents on this technology, and it's really cool because it'll run over your Wi-Fi network at the race. So this is the ultimate in backup if you need that, right? Okay, so this is free. Again, it comes with the system. And let's recap as we're about done here. I'm going to bring back Jaguar. You've seen the Jaguar system. You've seen a number of the features on there. Not everything because we don't have enough time, but you've seen pretty much how it operates basically. And then what you've seen is you've seen the announcer software, which comes with the system. And finally, you've seen the remote software, and that also comes with the system. This suite of tools really makes it possible to do incredible events. And finally, we all obviously have our own kiosks that talk to Jaguar. We have all kinds of add-on modules that you can purchase. We have all kinds of things that are really handy on race morning, like a lightweight little reader that can read at the kiosk if you don't want somebody to have to type in on the touchscreen. And most importantly, we have our It's Your Race registration and results platform, and we give the apps away for free. So now you can tell the athlete, we have GPS tracking. We have an app that'll show all your results. You can even put your logo on the splash page of the app so that you can make it look like it's for your event. And so we are all the way through the entire process of the race, including social media. So if you want us to automatically update somebody's Facebook page, we can do that. And we can share their results with all their friends. Jaguar is truly a complete solution for timing events and presenting the data. I guess that's the right way to say it. Presenting the result in such a graphic and interesting way. And that's Jaguar. I hope this demo has been helpful to you. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you'll become part of our extended family. Today we have about 650 offices in 40 countries. An office is essentially somebody who's bought our system. They've set up a business. Some are small, some are huge, and they're out providing services to races. God willing, this year, after COVID, we'll probably do 14,000 to 15,000 events around the world. Next year, we hope to be back to our normal, which is about 18,000 to 20,000 events. Thanks for being here. Hope you'll make the decision to join us. Take care. Bye-bye.